I'm sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Hello Time Waster and Aura Leaf. Welcome to the stream. Let me first recap about the last streams. Let's quickly fire up the application. In the last two streams we created an Azure To-Do app or a Blazor To-Do app. Good. If the volume needs to be changed, feel free to say that in the chat. But we created a To-Do app using Blazor, and we're using Tailwind as our CSS. We could order them. We can add new thing, new, and just edit. We can also edit it and change the priority to change the color. And you can also visit it at todo@topdev.com. And in the last stream we added Azure hosting, so you can visit it at todo@topdev.com, and we implemented a Github action to get it there. So if you want to check it out, feel free to go to the URL, and it should be accessible. In today's stream we will be adding Azure Functions. So instead of saving everything to the local storage, we now want to save it in a table storage of Azure. So you could have it on multiple devices with the same to-do list. So let's get started with this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. So for starters, I'm gonna create two new projects. One with shared, the shared what the UI flickering on the side or in the stream itself? Oh. Yeah, the flickering is something of the library we used for the drag and drop. Think you believe the dragging and dropping? So let's create a new project and search for Azure Functions. It's right here. Let's call it todo.azure functions. For now we just create an empty one with a storage emulator. You can change it to have your Azure account containing it, but the storage account will create or the storage emulator will create a local one for you to check it. If you have any song requests, feel free to ask them in the chat. So now we also create a shared project. If we have any models between them, we can create them in the shared, so there's no duplication. A class library for .NET Core. So quickly create that. And that will create an empty project with one class called class 1, but we will delete this. So to start, let's add a model here that we're going to use to share between the two projects. To do item DTO. So this model will be used to send between the two projects. Let's create a property for the name and for the priority. So let's also where did we? Let's move the enum to its own file and to the shared project. Refactor. Let's just move it. And let's create a folder for it. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. We just moved our enum to the the shared project, so the Azure Functions and the Todo app can access it after we add it to the dependencies, of course. So let's do that for now. Hello, welcome, Will Lexion. We created the site you can see on the screen right now. And another site I made, but for my work, is process mining.pwc. This one I'm showing right now, it's a lot of time, but this most of the things are made in Blazor. And the To-Do app is a couple of hours relaxation. We used Tailwind CSS, and you can check that on YouTube. You can see the streams, but the CSS itself wasn't that hard. Why use Blazor? It's a way to write C# in the browser, so that's really nice if most of your work is with C#, as you don't need to switch to JavaScript. And another advantage, I think, is you can share models between your front end and your back end. So there's a smaller mismatch if you refactor or when you create it. And I really like the framework for creating the pages and the HTML. Yeah, thanks. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. The CSS we created without Bootstrap, but with Tailwind CSS. So this is a little bit more work than Bootstrap, but you create your own fill instead of the default Bootstrap one. But it removes a lot of the CSS writing with still full control over it. I've been writing C# for well, a few years now. I have a job for a year now where I write C#, mostly MVC, but I also created the process mining tool, and we're working on converting some pages of our existing application to Blazor. But that's all in C#. I did a year of internships before that with C#. And before that, I had a part-time job where I did some Blazor, but not Blazor, but C#, but not that much. So for full-time, more than 2 years. But I did, yeah, for school and some side projects I did use it before. So let's get back to our page. Let's also create a folder for a DTO. So the DTO is just an object that we will be using between our shared project and our Azure Functions, so they can communicate together. Let's just move it here and fix the namespace. Reaction, not really. I used RavenDB in the past for database. So that's also a no SQL database. With MongoDB, I did some tests, but never real project. And for now, I mostly work with SQL. And the SQL we write with Entity Framework. Let's remove the to-do priority from the front-end project and let it implement from the other one. Any idea how to host MongoDB on your machine and have people access the data from the database? Yeah, REST API is probably the best way to do it. That's what we're going for in this project. We are going to use Azure Functions. So the cost is really low. They're just getting spinned up when we need them. And for the rest, they will be down. If you create your API correctly, then it's safe. Otherwise, not. But you can add authentication or whatever, how you want to secure it. In C#, it's pretty easy. You can just create an API project that does most stuff for you. But we will using Azure Functions, and it also has a HTTP option. Let me check if the project yeah, if you go to C# authentication, here's some information, but oh yeah, then I do not know. I only did C++ for school project once, but not much. You can also look at GraphQL, but I never really used it. So let's create a folder here called functions, so we keep everything separated. GraphQL MongoDB. Not sure how it works, never used it, but you can also look at Azure Cosmos DB. It's also NoSQL. It has support for Entity Framework, but also GraphQL. But it's a little bit pricey, I believe. So let's create a new function, and let's call that save add to do item function. And let's create an HTTP. Yeah, thanks. Feel free to drop a follow if I helped you. It really would be appreciated. Thanks for the follow. Have a good night. So what we did, we created a default function of Azure Functions for HTTP. We're gonna make a few changes. So we changed it to anonymous, so for now everybody can call it. We're using a post request and the routes, no extra routes, and the function name is add to do item function. So what I will do is go to our shared project and also create a function here of our folder here with constants, and create a class containing all our Azure function names. So function constants. So public const string So if we ever want to change this, we just have to do it at one place. Let's remove this and replace this with the constant. Did we add it to the dependencies? No, we didn't. So now we can see the constant and also I like to don't make them static, so we can add some we can add dependency injection later. So for now I will be opening Postman. Postman is a way to test your API. So that's before we're gonna mess with Blazor, we want to make sure that everything works correctly. So we have Postman here, and we're just gonna run our Azure function, and let's see if it works and if we can call it. So as you can see, the URL is displayed in the console. So let's just go there and send it. For now, file not found, as we're sending a GET request. Let's make this a little bit smaller. And let's set a breakpoint to see if we hit it. Welcome Abbott, Costello, Stello, Ethan and Ice Wizard to the stream. Let's create a valid body containing a name. So we'll be using JSON for our API. So let's check the console. It was just hanging. So I pressed enter and now the got out. It's a Windows console bug, I believe. So you can see that the message came in. Let's see what it does. it just logs to the console. So this function was made to also accept GET requests, but we're just doing POST for now. So so you can see that data that came in was a name called Thomas. So if we step over that, it's getting set, and it just logs it to the console. So if we check that, sorry, it doesn't log it to the console, it returns it to the sender. So hello Thomas, this HTTP trigger is executed successfully. So that's really cool. Now let's make sure Blazor also knows how to go there. For that, we are going back to our to-do app. And let's close this. Close all tabs. And let's go to our program.cs. As you can see, for sending the request, we'll be using the HTTP client. As you can see, it's defaultly added to the program, but you can also do that manually. And it's using the base address, but that won't work for us right now. Later it will, but our URL isn't the same as this, so because the port is different. So let's just do this for now. We'll be using a setting for this later. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them as good as I can. So let's create a HTTP service. So this service is just like a wrapper around the HTTP client with some error handling or settings that we want to use. I just prefer it that way, so another service can easily call it without having to deal with the HTTP stuff. So let's create a function, or let's let the HTTP client be injected using dependency injection, like this. Public key post async the URL So what we did was create a function called post async. So this function will just call the HTTP client using post, and the URL is the part, the additional URL, except for the base part. And the value is the object that we want to send there. So let's see how we can call the HTTP client. I like to use the post as JSON async. If you don't have any weird stuff that you want to add, that works really easy. So let's create a new URI called HTTP client.base URL plus. Let's see, we didn't add a slash, so let's do that. Plus URL that the user of the service will send, and then the object, their value, so the object that the person sent with it. And let's await it, of course, otherwise we will get a task. So now we're checking if the responsible code is valid. And then if it's valid, let's try to parse it to the correct object. Let me quickly check how to Blazor to objects, what the object is for it. Using the JSON serializer. They changed it. There are a few ways to do this, but just let's use the default one. So what I did was call the JSON converter or serializer, sorry, and deserialized it with the T that the color is gonna set. So this function doesn't know what it needs to be, but the color does. And for that, we just the content is the body of the request, so we just read that async, and we will return that. And for now, let's throw new not implemented exception, error handling not implemented yet. So if any of the people watching have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Let's make this read-only, and let's create an interface for this so we can use that instead. So extract this interface. Let's create our own file for it. And let's move that to the interfaces folder. And let's add it to our dependency injection. So we're getting a few dependencies right now. So let's create a new function, static. Add services. And let's make this extension method. For the people that don't know this, it's a static method that can be called on the class itself. So basically extending the functionality of an object. Service collection, services. So now instead of doing builder.services.addScoped, we can just do a builder.services.addServices, and let's also return the service collection. But it needs to be in a static class, I forgot, so let's create it and move it later. Public static class service collection extensions. Let's move this here. Return services. So copy all this and put it in here, and instead of calling builder.services, just call services. So this way we try to keep it as clean as possible. So let's add a function called, or a folder called extensions, and move it there. Let's say move this to some file, and let's move it here and change the namespace. So if we go to this function, let's do the library dependencies above, then the client, and then the services. And I want this one to be above the rest. There's no real reason to have any order in it, but just for readability. So for the people that aren't familiar with the dependency injection, what we're doing here is telling a container, so that's like a big C container containing ways to get a method or to get a class. So now if we say IHTTP, if someone requests this class, give him an implementation of this one. Really simply explained. And the nice thing about this is that this doesn't depend on implementation. So if you ever want to change it between environments or for testing or whatever, you can just implement this interface and create a new implementation for it. So we got the HTTP service ready. Let's add a new method to our to-do list service. Public async add to-do item async. And let's this dependency injection at the HTTP service. And now we can just send it. HTTP service dot post async, and we're gonna do the to-do item DTO. No, I don't know yet what this is gonna be, but we added the URL of the function in the constant, so let's call that. So function constants dot let's add something in our HTTP service that is post async without the generic that will just return when it's done. So this will be an error. And I'm just gonna copy the function from here. Let's make it get async. But instead of deserializing, just returning it. Let's return the HTTP response. Is that correct? Yeah. Just response. Just gonna fill. Let's change the implementation. And now instead of calling all this, let's just call this one and then deserializing it in the end. So like this. Post async with the URL and the value. So now we have a way to just get the HTTP response with the post async. Let's make this private, as I don't want to mess with the HTTP response, but also create a function called async task post void async. And this will be just like this. If you have any of the viewers have any questions, feel free to ask them. And if you have a song request, feel also free to ask them. Or suggestions about what to do next. Or why I'm doing something. Let's quickly do a full refactor using a resharper. Let's remove some white lines. Yep. So now we can call post void async. Give me a few minutes as I just need a quick toilet break. I'll be back any moment. I'm back. Welcome to all the new viewers. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to ask them in the chat, and I will try to respond as quick as possible. Today we're just adding Azure Functions to our existing app. So we just added the add to do item to add to do item async. So let's quickly make we already have a breakpoint here. So let's add it to when we create a new item. So if we go to the pages, to do item, and also add the priority. I'm looking at the item, I should be looking at the list. So let's call the to-do list service and call. Of course, we need to also add it to the interface. So just copy this, go here and edit. The small things we still need to do, as we said we wanted to use the DTO instead of the to-do item. So let's quickly make the to-do. You can do this via a couple of things via AutoMapper, but for now we just create a new object and copy the properties over. DTO equals new to-do DTO. Let's say the name is oh, we forgot the status. And let's quickly add status here. And also copy that over. So for now it seems pretty stupid to do this, as the DTO is exactly the same as the to-do item. But I still like it this way, as if you ever want to have something in the DTO that the to-do item doesn't have, or other way around, the server doesn't care about that. So that's the reason for this. And let's call this with the DTO. So let's do a test run. So for that, I'm just gonna set startup project to be the functions, and I'm gonna open the Blazor app using the console. There are other ways to do this, but I like to have the Blazor app also on a watch, so it changes automatically. So we just do .NET watch run. So it watches all the files, and if any of them change, it rebuilds, and you get to see the changes quickly. Let's see if it works. Well, it didn't, because of course. So course is also always something that can be a little bit annoying. But let's just Google Blazor course, and it's not too hard to fix. Let's open those. So course is a way of the browser to make sure you don't call an API that you're supposed to. So let's go to our app. Search for Blazor add course. This is the same page. It's on services, you can just go there. So let's go to the services and let's do that below the. It's not, do I need to edit? Quickly scan this article. Yes, we know. Oh, of course, we need to add the course to our functions. Ah, that's easier than I thought. We just go to our local settings, and on the host we add course. So let's let everything. Oh, don't. I want to run it with debugging. I got Control F5, so that's runs it without it. And let's hope this fixes it. And not the top dev, but the local host at 5000. Oh, we made an error in our application, so it won't build. Quickly see where. Yeah, here, let's remove it. Let's quickly see if it builds now. It does, so let's check the application. As you can see, it's pending. And now it hits our breakpoint. So if we go a little bit further, we can see that data contains a status test and the name. So that's basically what we wanted. So now let's go through the next step, and that's adding a database to it. So the database that we are gonna use is just table storage. It's nothing fancy, but it should do the job. So if you so Azure Table Storage is a non-SQL database without too many functions, so it's really easy to set up for your project, and it's really cheap. If you're using Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer, you can view the data that you stored. Welcome everybody new to the chat. Also see that Tessie returned. Welcome back. Hope you had a wonderful New Year's night. So doesn't, yeah, this start. So that didn't load my accounts, but for now we just need the local storage and then the emulator. It's really slow today. I'm not sure why it's this slow, but let's quickly see how it works. So you have a storage account, you have tables, and those tables contain entities. Let's get started. This wants you to create. This is Azure Cosmos DB, but they can use the same API. You can also so to start with this, we need to make an entity. And we want we don't want to do it this way. Let me see how we are want to do this. Yeah, we should be able to add the table here, I believe. Yeah, cloud table, and then we can use that. So as we're using it locally, and we have the Azure Web Storage, use development storage, it will just automatically saves it to our local storage in the emulator. But the emulator's really working right now. At least it's not saying it. Let me start it from here. So this isn't really a pretty name. So let's create a new folder and also make this a constant that if we want to access it to other functions, we can just call the constant. As we don't really ever want to call the database from our front end, we can just put the constant on the Azure function instead of the shared table. Storage constants. Public constant string to-do list table equals to-do list, and let's call this one. Did we? Let me check this. So bear with me. I did this before, but it was a while ago. So I'm also figuring it out. But I thought it would be a fun journey to find it out together. It's only valid on the class. Let me quickly see how this works. Maybe we can close this, and this. Azure Functions table storage. Blah blah blah. Input. So it is pretty weird, as it says it uses CosmoDB, but it is just the API inherited. That's the same. So we're not really using Cosmos. So let's quickly add the dependency to our Azure, to our project. Table, cloud table. Let's see if there's any other dependencies I'm missing. Nope. But I don't want the annotations. It needs to be table is not an attribute. Let's try it another way. Let's add dependency injection. I would want to do this a little bit later, but for now it's really starting to bug me, so let's do it now. Or we can do it without dependency injection, maybe. Let's see if this works. This is not gonna be a valid URI. Create cloud table to local storage. Let's copy this. Oh, it's in Java, but okay, it still works. So make it later this episode or next episode we'll be adding dependency injection to this, but for now let's do it like this. Let's see if we can cloud table that. Let's work with the cloud table. Let's call this table client and make this so. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I'll try to answer them as good and quickly as I can. Public constant string table name. We already have this one. We want to use this table name. So that's table constants, table storage constants dot it is the last, but I just needed a cloud table. I will make this a little bit better once I add dependency injection. We'll create a service that creates this for us. Yeah, so the cloud table is table storage, so it's a NoSQL database, but a really easy and cheap one. So not the cloud table client. Yeah, cloud table. How are you doing, Tessie? Do you have a great New Year's night? So the cloud table works with the table operation, so let's create a table operation for saving this. So it wants an entity, so let's create an entity for that. Let's create a folder for all our entities. Good to hear it was peaceful. So let's go to-do list entity. And let me quickly see what's table entity. No, fact. Let's just fill this with a model. So we could improve this, but for now let's keep it simple and just improve it every step. To do item prop string name. Anything cool you were working on, Tessie, or just work, or? Not string. I want a list. Yeah, Tessie, I can try to explain. For the first is cost. Like the Azure Functions cost like nothing if, especially for like a demo like this. It's not getting called a million times, so it's basically free. But even in a professional environment, in my work, we created something that we get data in our API. That's basically the default API endpoint, and that saves it to the database. And we're doing some calculations on them, but they take too long to do in the initial request. So before we had a cron job running for every 30 seconds that checked our database if there were any new entities added, and doing some and doing them later. So the HTTP call was quick, and we could do them later. But that was slowing down our server as the requests came in more and more. So we moved it to another server, but still the CPU and the memory were almost full without it even doing a lot. But we have like 10 or more different environments. So there was a lot of backend or a lot of overhead. And now we had a server of 300 euros a month, I believe. And we now are using queues. So now if a new item is added, we add it to the queue, and the Azure function is it gets triggered when there's something added to the queue, and our costs are like not even 15 euros a month. So that's like a 20 times improvement. So the cost can be, scalability can also be a really big reason. As if you create them correctly, you can really scale them. You can let that Azure do less, add more instances, and that just works. And the downside of functions is that they go in a cold state if you don't use them a lot. So that means that if anyone uses your applications in a while, it can take a few seconds to start up, basically. But there are some design patterns around them that programs / libraries I never really used them, but I heard about them. So they make sure that nothing gets ever really cold, or they scale up your instances on hotpoint, so it learns from whatever it already happened, and stuff like that. So that's the reason why you should or shouldn't use functions. For this demo, it's just really easy. I don't have to pay for a server. It's already baked in the static web apps. I did a lot of it work, but I can still improve. So it's always cool to work with them in your own project and expand your knowledge. Even though I did a lot of this, I still try to find new things and try to edit live on stream. So that's always a challenge. Yeah, I hope I answered your question somewhat good. Alright, Todo like this. And we called that Todo operation insert wait, why isn't this? Oh, it wants an entity. Okay, new Todo list entity table operation that inserts. Oh, my computer is complaining about my memory again. I should really fix that. It does have. It's why is it saying that it doesn't have one with two? Yeah, great question, Tessie. For now, it's not added to our Azure yet. We will be working on that later today, if I are getting to that. But I can open Azure for you and show it. So the static web apps, the To-Do website, they have something built in for your functions. So yeah, that's a really easy way to add them. I'm not sure how the hosting exactly works, but you can also go to the resources and create your resource called the Azure Functions function app. Create. Let's see what it does. So you're just getting called for a subscription resource group. That's also default stuff, and a function name. Then you can choose if you want a Docker container or just your code. So if you are just using C#, you just do call C#, and you want to use 3.1. 5 isn't supported yet here. Really annoying, but they're working on it. Just call the place you want to have it. Then if we go to hosting, there the real magic starts. So it needs a storage account, as for example the queues and other stuff is stored in the queue in the table storage or the blob storage, and even the file saves, like it needs to save your code somewhere. It uses table storage for that. Let me quickly choose a little bit lighter song. Then you can use your operating system, Linux or Windows, and then you can choose your consumption plan. So you have consumption, serverless, premium, and app service plan. And app service plan is basically like your default server. You can also add it to an existing project, the server of that. That's what we did in the first stand. So it just uses the server you already have, and it uses some resources of that, but that makes the scalability less. You have premium, and I believe you pay a fixed rate, but the more you use it, it goes up. So there's a default price per service app or a function app, and the more you use it, the more it costs. And then you have consumption, serverless. So that's the one we're probably gonna use. It has some downsides. You can have a maximum time of 10 minutes per call. But basically the entire infrastructure is handled by Azure, and you only pay for the time you use. So if you call it 10 times, like we can, if we quickly press the, there is some like pay only when your functions are running, scale out automatically even during periods of high. So the premium plan avoids cold instances. So you can have a limited duration with a maximum of 60 minutes guaranteed. You get some premium instances, more predictable pricing, and high density app allocation for plans with multiple function apps. And then you have the dedicated, so that's just the normal web app. You can see like the times. And let me scroll down if we can find that. I can't find the pricing right here, but you just need to check what you need to use. Yeah, for the now it's running just like your local when you're developing your server, you can just run it, and that's what we also do. For the table store, if I said that you needed a storage account, And Azure has local storage emulators built in, so you can call that using the storage emulators. Let me see if this works already. But for now it just spins up a local machine on your PC. But after we edit our first function call, we can try to make it work on Azure if you like. Why is it being so annoying? Did I have anything open? Yeah. So this is really annoying. Azure function do table operation. No. Okay. So it's not like this, but it is like table operation that new. Right. Sometimes Googling is way faster than Searching. Give me a few seconds as I'm gonna grab some new to drink because I'm getting quite thirsty. Be back in a minute. And I got my drink, so let's continue. So we can remove this log as we don't. Why is OneDrive popping up there? So remove this as we're not using it anymore. For request body, and now let's use the data equals JSON convert deserialize, sorry. Todo DTO, and we only have one. Let's also add, let me see what properties we have here. So let's give the protection key to be the let me quickly, for the people that never worked with table storage, storage key and partition key. So if you used SQL, you probably know that every table needs to have a unique identifier. It can have two columns that needs to be the same, but everything needs to be unique. Table storage has something equal, but it exists from two. So we have the partition key and the row key. So basically the partition is like the partition, like table storage can exist in multiple rows or multiple servers. So every partition can be a different one, and if you do that correctly, it's gonna improve your table storage. You can call everything the same, but that could be a little slow sometimes. So for now, I want to save every to-do item separately and give the to-do list a unique ID that will be sending to the front end for now, as I don't want to mess with authentication just yet. So we need to remove this, and we don't need this one, but we can copy this one. So the DTO also gonna need a unique identifier. So public string ID, that's called just ID. If any of you guys wanna have a song request, feel free to post in the chat. And let's so we prepared our data as we wanted it, and let's remove this and this, and let's just return OK. So we're not sending anything back for now, but just saying that we received it and we did it with what we wanted it. So the partition key is going to be the data.id. It's just a string. And the row key is going to be the name. This means that we can only have a to-do item with one name. Or should we make that not a requirement? No, let's change this. Again, I'm just public list ID, public string item ID. So now we could have the same name, but with a different ID. So it's gonna be some work on the back end, but or on the front end to get everything working, but shouldn't be too much of a trouble. So the partition key was already was list ID. So everything of the same list gets partitioned in the same partition. Item ID. And then the name is data.name priority equals data.status. Let's see if I didn't fuck up. Let's refresh this. Hi. And we should set a breakpoint to see if it even comes in. So we got an error. Let's see why. Let's close those. Let's see. So the data is... Let's make this some random values and see... Oh. Let's for now let's do GUIDs.new that the string so for the partition key we can give it any name we want. We can do an email, do a name, do an email plus name. It's all possible. Let's see if this works. Hello. So if we, this should be still null. Hello, new and false. Did it? It did look. It does look like it worked. My Azure storage seems to be broken. So let's force close that. Task manager. And let's see if we can restart it and if it works better. I don't care. Yeah, now it works. So this is an old one of another project, so just delete this. And let's see the to-do list. So as you can see, it has a partition key, a row key, hello, false, and timestamp. And it didn't save the priority. Azure table storage save enum. Duck, tick, duck. So that's quite annoying. It doesn't have support for enums. I did not know that. Let's save this as an int, and can we cast it to an int? Should be able to. Let's cast to int. Let's see if that works. Thank you, Visual Studio, for being slow. And now if we check, you can see that this is now a 0, so that's is correct. And then if anyone wants to check it, we just need to convert it back to an enum. We're not going to request all the items, but yeah, we can just create a query, I believe, but we can also use table operation. Table operation dot retrieve to-do list entity. I'm really wondering if we can just okay, this only retrieves one item. No. Just checking where okay, we'll check this later. So Tessie or anyone else in the chat, there are a few things we can do now. We can clean this up add some dependency injection, and then deploy our function to Azure. Or we can add more functions to the function, like retrieving the list and updating it, and deleting an item. Do you guys have any preference? Yeah, sure. We need to do a few cleanups, and at dependency injection, but then we can definitely add it to Azure. So let's work on that. So Azure function just copy this. So it has dependency injection built in, but you need to do a few things for it. So let's call this startup. And let's fix the namespace. Let's fix the and let's send dependencies for the dependency injection. So the reason we want to do this is so we're using the local or the string for table storage. We want to read it from the local .settings.json or from our web app. So that's something we're working on. I don't care about those or about the HTTP client. But I do want to move this to a factory. So let's create a factory. Factories. If any of you guys don't agree with the way I build things or name things or whatever, just feel free to call me out and we can discuss it and change it, or maybe I can change your mind, or we can agree to disagree. Table factory. public cloud table create cloud table. For table and we want to return the cloud table. So let's refactor extract interface. Let's make its own file. Factories. Yeah, I know about the logging. Working with settings. Did we get the configuration? Let's copy this. So what this does is it doesn't know configuration builder. Builder that. Okay. Let's copy this here. Yeah. So what this does is it allows us to create different settings. So we will keep this, but this will only be for the default stuff. And let's create a new item called JSON JavaScript configuration JSON file. And let's call this app settings. App settings. Yeah, and let's create a app settings.development.json. Add new item. App settings.development.json. So what it does is we created app settings.development.json and app settings.json, and now if we're running it in a development mode, it's gonna first read app settings.json, and then app settings.development, it's gonna override it. But on our when we publish it, let's do this now. Copy to output directory. Copy if newer. Also for this one. And copy to is never. So by doing this, it won't publish this file with us. Just to make sure it never gets read on production. And let's make a storage, and let's account, and for the local it will be let's go to the local settings, use development true. This needs to be in the development, so let's copy this and remove it here and paste it here. And we need to make a model for this. App settings. And now create a new class for this. So storage settings. And just give it a property with a string for the account. So it should be equal to the JSON. And now let me see how they did it here. Configuration. Options. Yeah, I needed this one. And this is called storage settings. Let's make it public. JSON key equals storage. So go to the storage .json key. And now we also should add scoped the factory. So the factory, how did we call it? Cloud table factory. Cloud table factory, cloud table factory. And now go to the function, and instead of using this and this, we want to inject the cloud table factory, and now say private read-only cloud table. Cloud table equals cloud table factory dot create table. And now we need to make sure that this doesn't use this one, but we are gonna use the options. Read only storage settings. And this is going to be the options. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask, but most of this is default for the .NET frameworks that use dependency injection. So I will be going through it a little bit faster. Welcome for everybody in the chat. I believe I see Albert Costello is new, Aiden, Casino Tanks, Commander Root, I believe I saw you before, so welcome back. Welcome back Lemon Juice. Welcome Marin, and welcome back Rumen Slayer. And already said hi to Tessie, another TV viewer, and Iris Tea Leaf. If you have any questions, don't hesitate and just ask them in the chat. Should we give this a test run? So just set a breakpoint right here, and let's see if it works. I think it doesn't work. I think there's some problems with the NuGet package, and I already see what it is. So Azure Functions doesn't work with .NET 5 yet. So let's see if downgrading it to 3.1 works. Does look a lot better. You're right. So before you ask about the Azure Functions, if there... Oh, wait, Marin, thanks for the follow, really appreciate it. Didn't see it, but thank you, really appreciate it. But before you ask about Azure Functions, why you would use it or why you wouldn't. So the startup is kind of like a black box. It's really hard to find out, and there are some tricky bugs with it. But for the rest, this looks like how we wanted it to work. So now let's check Blazor ads settings. As we also need the URL to be the same. But yeah. For now, let's try something before we change everything here. Let's go to the services. So it is this HTTP client dot let me check the program what it was before. Builder.host environment.base address. So I'm planning on that. This doesn't have the builder. Let's just add this through the normal way, like here. Builder dot place and this needs to be an URI. Let's stage everything. Edit Azure Functions. So this isn't gonna magically add my function. Too bad for that. Would be cool, but we do need to do a few things. Also, I added a pull request to the package we used last time, I believe. But and we added the imports, but I don't believe he responded yet. So let's go to our repository. And let's edit it. So for the people that didn't see it last time, we created a Github action, and let's break it down a little bit. Well, I'm now breaking stuff. That's never good. So let's add some enters here. So this makes sure that all the code gets pulled in. This makes sure that we have .NET 5 installed. But we now need .NET 3.1 as we're using that for our function. So let's 3.1 dot star. This works on Azure Functions, or on Azure Functions. No, not Azure Functions. On Azure Pipelines. That's the Azure/company way version of GitHub. These are the ways to explain it. I never really use GitHub Actions too much outside of a few hobby projects. So let's hope this works. So I also don't want to build. Let me see what happens if we go back and do .NET builds. If it builds and publishes both projects. It does look like it. Should we hope that it works? I also see that someone followed me on Twitter. So quite small, but I really appreciated every follow on Twitch, on YouTube, on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, I always try to post the day that I'm gonna stream. And now I will try to designate 1 or 2 days a week always, but then you get a notification that I'm going live. And if you follow me on Twitter, I'll try to if you follow me on Twitter, I'll re-follow you if you have nice content, of course. No, really appreciate it. So now we need to do a few more things. And let's search for this and see the documentation, as I have no clue what the options are out of my head. And so it wants the so the API location is just the name of the project. So that is Todo dot, what did we call it? Todo / Azure Functions. And let's see if it has an Do we have an API artifact location? So as you saw, you can also add the build command in here, but I like it more to do it by hand, so it's 2 different steps and you can debug and see it easier. You could also add extra steps and other stuff. This value cannot be null. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. And let's check it to do. Let's see what let's do .NET publish C release. So it's release .NET Core bin or the normal one, or publish. Let's guess this is it, but I'm not completely sure. If anyone in the chat knows it, feel free to help me. Start commit. I made an error. It needs forward slashes. So a really annoying thing of Windows and Linux is that they don't share the same forward or backslash for the folders. Now it works. Let's see if this works. Well, I'll take a few seconds of a break. Oh. I was quick enough. Let's check how it's going. Let's have our fingers crossed. So let's create a storage account, as we are gonna need it to store data. So it's already here. And I want it on the To-Do app. Storage account name, To-Do app. It needs to be lowercase. To-Do app storage. West Europe, as everything is there. All those settings should be fine. So review and create, data protection. So all. Yeah, I'm fine with this, fine with that. Let's create it. And let's see how we're... Ooh, we made a boo-boo. An hour. This is a really old issue. It shouldn't be the same, but .dll. It doesn't have any DLLs. So this also doesn't have a DLL. It should, I believe it should be the bin folder. So this part is always like some trial and error. And the bad thing is that it takes a while. But I believe together we can work it out. So that should be /bin start commit. So does anyone have any cool stories or questions or music requests, song requests? This is an amazing time, as we need to wait a little bit for the function to be deployed. Let's see who liked our Twitter. Jared, thank you if you're in the chat. Let's see what this is. Test, nice. But thank you for the follow, and I really appreciated it. Also, John Tessard, I believe I called that correctly, but if not, feel free to let me know. So let's check back up. Delete a few of those. So next week I gonna probably choose 1 or 2 days to stream, as I need to work full time then again. But I really enjoyed streaming those last 2 weeks, and I'm definitely gonna try to keep it up. But every other day, as I did last week, it's probably gonna be a little bit too much while working full time. But because of COVID, I cannot go to the gym or whatever, so that should leave me with plenty of time in the evenings. Damn it! Github action deploy static web add Azure function. Why does looking at the correct one, as we changed that to the bin folder. Unable to move. Yeah, we added the bin folder. Okay, so it doesn't understand the API artifact location. Let's see if we can fix that. So I'm really wondering why it did take this part. If any one of you have any idea, feel free to let me know. So the API is sometimes a little bit hard to understand, but maybe combine them? So let's try this while we're checking some other stuff. So it wanna to do shared, you don't really care about shirts. Yeah, if you see this maybe works. It always takes a while, so that's kind of annoying. Let's maybe check the Reddit of Blazor and see if there's some cool stuff happening. Just some questions. I had a really nice stream. So it maybe be cool for those who are watching, if you want to use XIZ. Oh, it's T-hop, not TGL. So I created a blog post about interfacing your API. So if you're using the normal API, you can create an interface in your shared project, and you can add it through dependency injection to your Blazor project, and then you can call the interface and it automatically calls the API. I also created a package for it called the API interface. It's still in alpha, and it's this been a while, but I'm working on rewriting it using source generators. So now it uses a lot of reflection and some weird things. But if you acquire any bugs, just make an issue and I will try to fix it as soon as possible. Let's see how far this is. This is could not detect the language for this repo. But it's still uploading. Let's do some new playlist. Tessie, did you understand everything we did for this? So it's pretty easy, but it may be hard to follow sometimes. Zipping API artifact, uploading build artifact. So let's see if it worked. Could still be a couple of seconds, minutes. It is completed. It's not working. It said it needed JavaScript, but let's check if that's true. So let's see if we're updated. So not top dev, it should be blog. Blog. Huh. Oh, it's not blog, it's Todo. So let's check the console. So we made a small error, but let's quickly fix that, as it has a double slash. So it should just be API. Fixed URL. Myths. But this is online, but the function isn't. So that's quite a shame. Let's check the logs and if we can find anything. This could be a problem. So let's copy this. So it thinks that it's a JavaScript function, but it isn't. So that's quite a problem. If it's not gonna work, then can we language worker maybe? No. Logging. Let's disable logging. Function worker.net. Let's also add a settings. Let's remove this one. Let's remove this one, and let's remove this one. We don't have any We do want to change that. Let's hope this works. I never did it with static web apps. I only deployed using their own environment. I did try it once before, but I had some other problems, but they're fixed now. I believe we have a new person in the chat, Abot Castello. Welcome, really appreciate it. If you have any questions about what we're doing, feel free to ask them. Did we? Oh, pull and push. So we're gonna have to watch. Wait, sorry, not watch. We're gonna have to wait a few moments to wait for this build to continue. So if you have any questions. If any of you guys are new in the chat, feel free to say hello. As even interactions in my chat could help me grow. And it's always good to see that people are watching and maybe enjoying, hopefully, or learning something. So now our application is building. Sorry for the slow stream at the moment, but we just need to wait a few moments. Could not detect. That's not good. So I'm not really sure why this is not working, but I think I will be trying some stuff offline, as this is quite boring for you guys to watch, to see one line get changed and then wait 5 minutes. So next stream I should have this fixed, and I'll explain what I did. But this will be the end of the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If any of you guys didn't follow me yet, feel free to follow. It really helps me. It helps me grow. It helps you find out when I'm online. If you enjoyed it, I hope you get back soon on my next stream maybe. You can also follow me on Twitter, as I always post it when I go online, and even the day on the day that I go online. So that should be helpful if you enjoy my streams. So thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, it would be appreciated if you type something in the chat. Thank you, Tessie. Thank you, Marin. And let's see you guys next time. And I hope you have a great weekend and a lovely new year. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, as I can still answer them through the chat. But until next time.